Time to get back to some proper headmasters on Titan's Return Week, Decepticon edition. And this time we are going with one of the originals, one of the classics. In fact, the one I had as a kid. This was my headmaster. This is Skullsmasher. Skullsmasher for trademark reasons, but I'm probably going to refer to him as Cruncher for the foreseeable future. The foreseeable future being the rest of this review. Yes, it's not quite accurate to this version of the toy. I don't care. It's what I grew up with. So behold, done up in a very nice shade of dark green and magenta plastic, we do have this Cybertronian robotic crocodile. I'm going with crocodile based on a very thin and long snout as opposed to the gator's big flat maw. I think that's a little bit closer to what it is. It's not, let's be fair. This is not entirely anatomically correct. The front legs being gigantic is kind of an indication. I think that makes him look a lot more ferocious, though, the huge claws coming off the front. So yeah, this is very, very accurate to the original G1 toy in a very modern, updated, and much sleeker form. In fact, so true to the original, he even has deco and tampographies on the sides that mimic his original stickers, which is a really cool touch. There's even a little bit of paint harkening back to the details on the original toy. I really like that. Toward the head, we can see some gunmetal gray plastic exposed through, some bright red eyes, as well as some teeth poking through his lips. That detail gets a lot cooler, but we'll save that for the articulation section. In the meantime, I'll point out all of the rows of spines going all the way from the back of his neck all the way to the tip of the tail, which is excellently done. He is a very sharp and vicious looking beast. He does have some hollowing here for the tip of the tail, for the entirety of the tail now that I think of it. But it actually does have purpose, so I'm going to give it a pass for now. We'll show you once we get to robot mode exactly what I'm talking about. For everything else, you do have some off-white paint for the claws on the back legs, as well as a little bit here and there as well. And besides that, you have a ton of mechanical detailing all molded in. This guy is exceptionally well detailed. Absolutely love it. Now, as a beast mode, he does have articulation. The tail does rotate on the peg that holds it in place. You have that. I'll save the head for last. That's the best part. You do have ball joints here to the hips of the back legs, but not a really good cut for really getting a distance on the ball joint, and no ankle or knee of any kind. So you are kind of limited on the articulation there. And in both modes, I kind of wish there was a little bit more engineering going on with the rear legs. The front legs are great, though. You have a rotation here toward the shoulder, an elbow, as well as a wrist. The anatomy matches up to what I would say as on a robot mode. But it's the head that's impressive, because not only do you have this great range of motion in a ball-jointed neck, go all the way, twist around, all of that, but his mouth opens up completely, just as the original G1 toy did. Inside, you have some soft off-white plastic, not only so the little tiny teeth aren't going to break on you, but also gives the tongue kind of like a slightly squishy feel, which is kind of weird and appropriate in a way. It also means the entire inside of his mouth is white as well. But that does make him a little bit more distinct. I like that. I like that a lot. It's an added bit of detail Hasbro didn't have to go through, but they did, and that's excellent. Now, toward the back, notice this flap on the back. This is the only bit of soft green plastic on the entire toy, and it's the only Titan's Return figure I have so far where the cockpit is, not only is it not a translucent canopy, it's soft plastic instead of hard translucent, which is weird, but ultimately doesn't really have that much of an effect on things. So we'll set him aside and we'll take a quick look at Grax, because they can keep the name of the headmaster apparently, but they cannot seem to keep the name of the toy itself. Grax is one of the headmasters I like, with the arms and the lower legs done up in the same color, which means the head mode is going to look nice and solid. Dark green for the body and thighs, as well as some gold for the face. Sculpting is squared off and fairly nice on him. It's reminiscent of the original toy. This is the component to my original G1 Skullcruncher I have not seen in a long, long time. So this this kind of brought back memories when I saw it, because this is the only part of him I haven't seen in a long time. Alright, so before we get him into head mode, before we get into robot mode, I'm going to take the tail off and flip it over and expose that he does have a trick to him in the same way that Blur did. I actually want to come on. I can wiggle the gun out. Come on, out. Phew. God, how did this go again? Anyway, if you actually look on the inside, you can see. I haven't done this in a while. I'm still recovering from Metro, but if you see inside, there is an actual cockpit where you can actually seat a Titan Master. It does peg in quite firmly. Now, unfortunately, unlike Blur, he does not quite have the thing where inserting the gun actually balances off the vehicle mode in a way. That's why I was trying to flip it around, see if it worked better that way, and apparently it does not. But it's kind of neat. You have this, like, I would assume this more to a boat mode that you can kind of speed around a spare Titan Master in while the robot mode is assembled. So that's a nice little bit of playability. I like when they work in little touches like that. Alright, so I'm going to get this out of here. I'm going to set that aside. We're going to set the tail aside, and we're going to go into robot mode. I'm going to close that up, and first and foremost, we're going to fold out the legs, which are double hinged at the knees, so we got to make sure it's all folded out and straight. Flipping over, I'm going to flip out the feet, which is an easy detail to miss. They are not very large. Okay, now here's where the engineering differs from the original. The head does still go back onto his backpack. However, the arms do a good job of actually making up the upper body of the crocodile mode, which means a lot less bulk going to the back and a lot more even looking robot mode. It's a nice little piece of engineering. Aside from that, a lot of stuff still matches up to his original G1 design. You know, this is not a very complex transformation. You know, fold up the head to the back and see, we're pretty much done. You know, I just have to take Grax here, put his arms back down to the sides, fold him up accordingly. Now we're going to go to this thing again where people keep correcting me on what direction to flip the Titan Master. I'll tell you, you know, the way you're supposed to put it in kind of makes the head rock too much and kind of makes it bobble on me. I don't like doing that, so I kind of flip it around. It doesn't matter as long as it goes in and out without catching on anything, without requiring pliers to get back out. It's fine. Jeez, let's not make such a huge deal out of it. Done it so far to all of mine, and nothing's gone wrong yet. Behold, Skullsmasher, whatever, in his full robot mode, looking quite glorious and very well proportioned. Really, really dig this guy a lot. Now, since he is a headmaster, of course we start with the head, because we always do. Black painted eyes that kind of get lost in the helmet, but other than that, the details and the gold face really do harken back to the original headmaster I grew up playing with. Exceptionally well done. I am so happy with how this guy came out with, at least as far as the looks go. We will get into some of the other things in a little bit. But for now, as far as an upgraded Skull Cruncher, he does definitely look the part. I love that the color mixes is going so well. We have more off-white thanks to the pelvis and the thighs, breaks up the color scheme and gives him a little bit more visual variety. The magenta and the green, still pretty dominant, still pretty balanced. So everything kind of works out pretty well to give him a nice, even color palette all the way around. Very, very nice. For new paint apps, we do have the chest, which is completely painted over in the off-white, and given a few details to match his original stickers, which I really like on this guy. Besides that, there really isn't a whole lot of new paint and deco. The toy gets the vast majority of its color and its looks strictly from molded plastic, and while you could accuse it of going cheap on the paint, this is actually preferred. You know, this isn't going to wear out or chip on me. You know, the arms are not going to suddenly stop looking correct just because they got rubbed the wrong way too many times. I kind of prefer it this way. As long as he has enough color mix going on, like this, like obviously he does, it doesn't really bother me too much. And he does have quite a bit going on besides that. So yeah, I've talked this guy to death already, and we haven't even gotten into the articulation. This is going longer than I expected, so I am going to dip into the articulation because this is where we have some things to discuss. The ball joint in the head works fairly well. A little bit of up and down, but left and right is buttery smooth. Everything working quite well there. Shoulders have nice tight ball joints, and that hinge at the chest gives them an extra range of mobility and motion. It compensates for the ball joints' lack of outer movement on their own. Bicep swivel works, 90-degree at the elbow. That works, as well as a wrist, or actually a forearm rotation just below the elbow. Works on that way on both sides. Do have the waist joint, and everything to this point has been nice and tight. And here's where everyone has a problem with the toy. The ball joints in the thighs, while given great range and great level of articulation, are quite loose. On mine, it'll hold a pose, but you can tell he does have a bit of an issue there. Actually, someone popped one of these off and found out there are like little burn marks on the inside, like they took a little soldering iron to the inside of the sockets or something to give them a little bit more friction. So I think they knew the QC issue, but it's not properly fixed either. The thighs are also a little bit loose. So it's like everything in this particular piece isn't quite sized correctly. Because the knees are okay. The knees are actually okay, and the knees are doubled up because of the transformation. So that works out pretty well. The feet are slanted to give them an offset pose, a little bit more natural, but there's no give or any real articulation in the feet. The big problem to him is on the inside of his leg there is absolutely nothing for his weight to rest on, which means any pose where his legs are splayed out farther don't really have anything to balance on, which is a real disappointment because it limits his posability and what he can actually do. He becomes very off balanced if his feet are not flat on these ridges, on the far side of his feet. This is where I really wish these had been, the rear croc legs, had been better engineered. If they could have flipped inside here and not only filled this gap, but provided some good heel spurs, that would have enhanced this toy so much more. And it doesn't seem like that much more extra engineering to do that. But fortunately, it apparently was. So we are deprived of a good balance to Skullsmasher, whatever. Yeah, so you can see it like this, between the loose hips and the lack of heels in the inside of his legs. Yeah, you've got some posing problems, which really hurts the toy. It really, really hurts the toy. We do at least have accessories going, just like the original. The tail can be used as a weapon. It's not quite the same weapon, this like clubbing kind of sword thing the original had, but at least it's here. At least he can use it. We can flip it over, and even though the handle's on this side, there's also a handle on the inside. So we can also use it this way as some kind of shield. And then we also have his gun, which kind of matches his old school gun as well. So he does have that going on for him. Accessories. Woohoo. But yeah, oh man. The engineering, basically it's the lower half of this toy where everything goes wrong, and it's a real disappointment. So that is, I almost said Combiner Wars. No, that's the old stuff. We're at Titan's Return. This is Titan Return Skullsmasher. Design-wise, he's everything I wanted out of an upgrade of my original Headmaster I had as a kid. His look is fantastic. He has great proportions, great color balance. Oh man, I keep doing it. The crocodile mode, so good. I love how much between the tail and the neck and the opening jaw that mode can actually emote and pose, and it's beautiful. It all comes down to QC issues on this toy, and I have read that the thigh problems and the hip problems on this toy are fairly common. So buyer beware. This one has some ongoing issues a lot of people have been getting. It's a really... It's such a buzzkill, man. I needed this thing to be the one toy that came out good in this whole series, and I'm gonna have to go with I'm gonna have to go to Takara, and I'm gonna have to put this head on it, so it actually looks like the one I had as a kid. A lot of good, but just too much. It's like one negative that just really, really eats at you.